Hey now, ladies and gentlemen. Hey now. Hey now. Hey now. Hey now. And a hey now. What it See, this is the problem with following old people on the radio is that there's just heaters in all these different strategic places where I can feel I can feel the heat, but I don't know where it's coming from. There it is. There, get that out of here. Good Lord, man. It's like a freaking oven in here. Whew. I understand when you get older, kind of like in nursing homes and stuff, they get old people get cold.
It happens.
But I ain't there yet, cuzzy. Y'all gotta prep the room for me or something. Turn that heater off. I don't know how Dixon sits here for 4 hours with this heater blowing at his crotch.
Honestly, I don't know.
It's a little much. It's a little much if you ask me. Listen. I'm gonna be kind of in a weird spot today because I think I got a hold of some bad Mexican last night, and I'm not feeling right. I'm just not feeling right, and so there may be times where I just disappear. Okay, just so everybody knows. And it's odd because it's the place that we got the Mexican from. Like it's the same place we always go, and it's amazing. Like
Maybe just a bad prep night.
yeah, I guess, man. Something didn't, and it wasn't even my meal. It was Trisha's, and I just kind of was like, let me. Because she said something about it, and I was like, well, let me try that out. I'll tell you if something's wrong with it. Well, I found out,
That
and
apparently there was.
yeah, yeah. So, I'm kind of messed up. I've been messed up all morning. I was in a mad dash to get up here. I'm already running behind and everything else. But you know, that's part of the game, man. When it comes to eating international foods, it is basically Russian roulette for your stomach.
Especially certain kinds, yeah. I agree.
Mhm. And then on top of that, I'm going to a Mexican restaurant after the show, but I'm not going to eat. But my kid wants to go to this place over in Springville. I was going to take him somewhere yesterday, but he was sick yesterday on his 16th birthday. And so I was like, well, let's rain check it and we'll go after the show tomorrow. And it's a place called, I can't even pronounce it, but it's a restaurant that's got some sort of, it's a gue uh ta- taqueria bar. How do you say that?
Sure. I don't know.
How do you pronounce that? Hold on, I'll ask Google how to pronounce it.
There you go.
Uh, pronounce pronounce this word. And let's see. Okay, it's not going to do it.
Wow, even Google decided not to do it.
Yeah, that's not good. Anyway, it's a place over in Springville that's a Mexican restaurant. It says it's a casual Mexican restaurant known for its authentic tacos, cocktails, and fast service, with popular dishes including the carnita asada and chorizo tacos. Options of dine in, takeout, and drive through. Offers a trendy and cozy atmosphere. But the reason he wants to go is because the theme of it is like a wrestling theme.
Really? Okay.
So yeah, they've got like WWE playing on the TV, and they've got these different you know, uh wrestling. It's kind of, it's not just wrestling, but it's more geared towards like Mexican wrestling. Like lucha libre,
Nacho
luchador.
Libre.
Yeah, that kind of wrestling. And so he wanted to go check that out, so I'm gonna take him over there. But again, I'm not in any position to eat any more Mexican food for the
Odin
next 24
apparently has
hours.
been there. He says they've got really good tacos.
Really? Yeah, it looks interesting. So we're going to try it out. See what happens. It's rare that you'll catch me at a restaurant at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but that's apparently going to happen today. So, but hopefully I'll be in better shape by the time we get to that point, because I ain't feeling it right now. I am not feeling it, but that's all right, because we got a show to do, my friend. My door's open. You know, I don't like doing the show with the door open because I feel like people are listening to me. I mean, even though there's like a bunch of people listening to me,
I was about to say, define irony.
I don't like
man doing a radio show that doesn't want people in the hallway listening to him.
Yeah, I don't like people here listening to me, I think is what it is. You know? Like, it's okay for these people to hear me, but I don't want my coworkers to hear me. Like, even when Val comes up and says, I was listening to the show today, I'm like, oh, no. That's not good.
Damn, I'm in trouble now.
But I don't know. Man, we got a lot of stuff going on at the moment. Two things. Marco Rubio speaking on Capitol Hill in a congressional hearing about the Venezuela, U.S. policy in Venezuela, which I thought might be pretty fascinating. But also you have Trump making remarks in Washington for the launch of the Trump accounts, which is going to be these accounts for, I guess, newborns or children for it to, you know, invest over time, build money over time, and then to be able to use on education or whatever that is. Let's dip into Trump's remarks just for a moment.
See what's going on with our economy, the tremendous investments that's been made in our country. We have over $18 trillion coming in. The most, I think, was 3. That was 10 years ago, another country, not even our country. We have $18 trillion, and we have thousands of businesses being built all over the country, and hundreds of massive plants, so big, car plants, AI plants. With the support of the men and women here in this beautiful room, over the next 15 years, we're going to put $3 to $4 trillion of wealth into the hands of young Americans who otherwise would have really started out with nothing. It's really an amazing thing because it gives young children that start out with really nothing, and we gives them, boy, it's more money than anybody could imagine. From their standpoint, they'll have a real start in life, and that's why decades from now, I believe the Trump accounts will be remembered as one of the most transformative policy innovations of all time. And I've done a lot of them. The tax cuts, we've done a lot of them, more than I think anybody. And I think this is going to be one of the most outstanding. Last summer, I signed the great, big, beautiful bill delivering. It made this possible, too. It actually made this possible. Without it, we wouldn't have been able to do this. Delivering the largest tax cuts in American history, including no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And, you know, we did another thing. When you buy a car now, you get a deduction on the interest payment if you borrow money. So think of it. Rich people get so many deductions. I'm the king of deductions. I love deductions. But people, middle-income people, never had a deduction before. Now they're getting a deduction on interest. They buy a car. That's going to have a huge impact on the automobile. By the way, there's one proviso. It has to be made in America. If the car is made in another country, no thank you. But they're all going to be made in America pretty soon because we have factories coming in from Canada, Mexico, Japan, Germany, all over Europe. They're all coming here to make their cars because they don't want to pay tariffs. Very simple. It wasn't very complicated. You'll see those numbers starting to produce. That's why you see these massive construction numbers, and soon when those things start opening, you're going to see employment, and you're going to see wealth creation for middle-income people like you've never seen before. Every single Democrat in Congress voted to raise taxes on hardworking citizens. Their whole campaign was raise taxes. I've never heard of it before. All my life I grew up And I hear politicians, we will cut taxes. This is the only group I've ever seen, we're going to raise your taxes. No wonder they lost. Actually, there were other reasons also. But together with the majorities in the House and Senate, we overcame their obstruction, and we put more money into the pockets of every working American than anyone thought even imaginable. Perhaps no provision of the great big beautiful bill will prove more consequential than Trump accounts. Under this program, the U.S. government will automatically create a tax-free investment account for every newborn American child, something that nobody really would have even thought of. There were some brilliant people that thought of it for a long time. They're here with us today. We're going to introduce a couple of them. But nobody really, I mean, I've had friends at the top people in business, they came up to me, whose idea was this? This is great. They said, I never thought of that. We'll fund those personal accounts with a seed contribution of $1,000, which will compound and grow over the course of their lives and could grow into very, very substantial numbers. Parents, employers, churches, states, and loved ones will also be able to add up to $5,000 in additional money for those accounts. And with every modest contribution, Trump accounts should reach at least $50,000 in value by the time the child turns 18, and could be very substantially more than that. With slightly greater contributions, the typical account will grow to $100,000, $200,000, and can even grow up to past $300,000 per child. And we think most likely, the most likely cases in the $200,000, $300,000 range. The size and scale of this wealth will dwarf all government programs ever created to benefit America's youth. There's never been anything like this. That's why everybody's talking about it. Even really people that truly hate me are making this investment. One person hates my guts. He put $1 billion into it. I said, you must like this program a lot because you can't stand me. I said, I do, but I do like you more than you think. They liked me more in the last year than they liked me before. Although we had a great first term, we can't forget that. We're the greatest economy in the history of our country, but this is blowing it away. So,
all right, so we'll hop in here real quick, and we're going to go back and forth for a moment. We may have to finagle some breaks, but we'll figure it out. We've got Marco Rubio, who's also on Capitol Hill, being questioned right now by Tim Kaine on the issue of Venezuela. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but Marco Rubio has turned out to be quite the bulldog, and I like it. I like it a lot. Let's dip into that for a moment.
Maria Corina for probably 12 years, 13 years, have dealt with her probably more than anybody, as much as anybody on this committee has for certain. And I'll be meeting with her today, in fact, and we met with her a couple weeks ago. So here's the reality, though, and I think what the president was pointing to, and I think Maria Corina would acknowledge this.
The only way I talked to her last week.
Well,
she's very disappointed in those comments, and so are Venezuelans in my state.
Okay, well, she didn't share that with me or with us, but I would sell this to you. For the president is acknowledging is that today, as it stands, whether we like it or not, the elements of control in that country, the people with the guns, the people that control the guns and the institutions of government there, are in the hands of this regime. So we either, on the one hand, we're getting criticized. Some people are saying we don't want regime change. On the other hand, we're being criticized for not undertaking regime change.
Mr. Secretary,
what we're trying to trigger here is a process of stabilization, recovery, and transition to something where Maria Corina and others can be a part of.
You have respect for her, don't you?
Sure.
Okay, great. My last question is this.
And so does the president, by the way. He met with her. They had a great meeting. And he actually spoke to her last week in my presence.
Here's what he said after that meeting. We're talking to her, and maybe we can get her involved in some way. I'd love to be able to do that. Maybe we can do that. We'll set the terms for this Nobel Prize winner having a leadership role. Last question is this. You talked about the speech in Davos. Here's something the president said in Davos. I'm helping NATO until the last few days. When I told them about Iceland, they loved me. They're not here for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. Our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland, so Iceland has already cost us a lot of money. President repeatedly mistook Iceland for Greenland, right? We're not mad at Iceland. They haven't cost us any money. The president just mistook the two countries for each other, correct?
Yeah, he meant to say Greenland, but I think we're all familiar with presidents that have verbal stumbles. We've had presidents like that before. Some made a lot more than this one.
Nice try. Thanks. All right, thank you. I thought he did well. Let's see, we got Senator Paul.
Our founders debated extensively over which branch of government should have the power to declare or initiate war. Virtually unanimously, they decided, and what was entered into the Constitution was that the declaration or initiation of war would be the power of Congress. Now, we have many advocates, many of whom are here today, who have been advocates for an expansive notion of presidential power. They often argue that wars are not really wars, that they're kinetic actions or drug busts. I think, though, if you reverse the circumstances, it becomes very difficult for these arguments to hold up. So I would ask you, if a foreign country bombed our air defense missiles, captured and removed our president, and blockaded our country, would that be considered an act of war?
Well, I think your question is about and I will acknowledge you've been very consistent on all these points the entire career. So let me, no matter who's in charge. So I will point to two things. The first is it's hard for us to conceive that an operation that lasted about 4.5 hours and was a law enforcement operation to capture someone we don't recognize as a head of state, indicted in the United States, wanted with a $50 million bounty.
My question would be, if it only took 4 hours to take our president, it's very short, nobody dies on the other side, nobody dies on our side, it's perfect. Would it be an act of war?
We just don't believe that this operation comes anywhere close to the constitutional definition of
But
war.
would it be an act of war if someone did it to us? Nobody dies, few casualties, they're in and out. Boom, it's a perfect military operation. Would that be an act of war? Of course it would be an act of war. I'm probably the most anti-war person in the Senate, and I would vote to declare war if someone invaded our country and took our president. So I think we need to at least acknowledge this is a one-way argument. One-way arguments that don't rebound, that you can't apply to yourselves, that cannot be universally applicable are bad arguments. So my next question would be, let's say it's not a war. We're just going to define it away and say it's not a war. That's one of the arguments. So it's a drug bust. What if a foreign country indicts our president for violating a foreign law? Should we extradite our president, or should we be okay if they come in and get him by force?
Look, I think ultimately we're always going to act in our national interest. And so if somebody comes after our national interest, like the case you've described, which obviously does not exist at this time, but the case you've described, the U.S. always has the right to act in its national interest and to protect itself.
So really
I don't know about this equivalency. Well, does this justify them doing it? We're always going to do what's best for the United States and America. We're always going to protect our system.
But the point isn't, and you're exactly right, we will act in our national interest and we should. So I'm not disagreeing with you at all. What I'm saying is, though, that our arguments are empty then. The drug bust isn't really an argument, it's a ruse. The war argument, not a war, is a ruse. It's not a real argument. And we do what we do because we have the force, we have the might, we do it because it's in our interest. So we wouldn't let anybody come in and bomb us, blockade us, and take our president. We've had arguments about legitimate, illegitimate presidents, bad elections, rigged elections. So there's all kinds of same arguments that we've had in our country that they've had in Venezuela. But we wouldn't argue for an indictment. And these things aren't idle speculation. I mean, Netanyahu's been indicted by the ICC. And one of the reasons I object to being part of the ICC, and I would say you and the administration probably agree, is we're not going to let any international council indict our president and arrest him somewhere on foreign soil. We're not going to do that. We actually, most of us probably object to indicting Netanyahu in that way as well. So I think the arguments are invalid. So we did get the legal opinion that Senator Kaine referred to, the OLC opinion, Office of Legal Counsel. And I think a lot of it's been released. Plus, they came to our caucus and talked most of the open about everything they had classified. So I will talk about at least one of the arguments. They say this war wasn't a constitutional war. Therefore, it doesn't rise to the constitutional notion of us declaring or having to initiate the war. It just doesn't rise. And one of their main arguments was not enough people died. And so there is some number that they aren't specific, but there is some number. I would assume, although I'm not positive, but the 50, 60,000 soldiers who died in Vietnam might be enough for them to call that a war. But here's the problem. It isn't the number, it's that it happens in retrospect. See, our founders gave us the power to initiate or declare war. They didn't give us other powers to execute the war. Those are left to the president. But if we have to wait to see how many people are killed, we have to wait, as they describe it, as the scope, nature, and extent. If we have to wait to see the scope, nature, and extent, the war has been going on for some time. It's hard to vote to initiate a war that's been going on. And we can say this war is over, but we're still blockading it, and we may go back in. But there are no clear answers. You know, we put 2,000, we leave 2,000 troops in. Are we going to call that war and initiate it? So the definition of war is very important. And I think we have to acknowledge the problems with our argument. Calling things kinetic action is a disservice to our soldiers. Oh, you weren't really wounded in war. You don't have a Medal of Honor for war. You have a Medal of Honor for a kinetic action. So I think let's call it what it is, and let's vote on these things. But I think we're in violation of both the spirit and the law of the Constitution by bombing a capital, blockading a country, and removing elected officials. And we certainly wouldn't tolerate it, nor would I if someone did it to us.
Well, we didn't remove an elected official. We removed someone who was not elected, and it was actually an indicted drug trafficker in the United States. And their system.
Our laws, indicted under our laws. Look, Bolsonaro says that Da Silva is not really the president of Brazil. Our president said Biden wasn't really the president. Hillary Clinton said in 2016 Trump wasn't the president. So you have these arguments, and I agree with you. It probably was, and most likely was, most assuredly was a bad election. He wasn't really elected. But at the same time, if that's our predicate, and you don't have to come to us because it's a drug bust, we're just removing somebody, you can see where it leads to, and it leads to chaos. And that's why we have rules like the Constitution, so we don't get so far out there that presidents can do whatever they want. It is this check and balance. And I would argue for 70 years we've been going the wrong way. It isn't just this president, but it's a debate that I think is worth having.
So there's Rand Paul. As I sat there and listened to him, I kind of started nodding off a little bit. The guy is this argument, and he tried to correct course there at the end, talking about, well, you know, he wasn't elected, blah 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 blah. It's like the guy was charged with drug trafficking crimes. This was not about regime change. This was not about taking over Venezuela. This is about simply holding people accountable, which is what Rand Paul claims he wants to do. Can't stand Rand Paul. He's the worst. And he's over here siding with Tim Kaine. By the way, I was thinking while Tim Kaine was speaking as well, what is it about the female Democrat presidential candidates to where they want to pick the weirdest old white guys they can find? Tim Kaine and Tim Walz have a lot in common, and not just their first name. They're both incredibly weird individuals. And both incredibly corrupt, as we've seen over the past few weeks. So as this goes on, we'll kind of keep our eye on it and get to a lot of other stuff. As you know, yesterday, Tim Walz and Jacob Fry both meeting with Tom Homan. We'll see how that went, as well as a lot of other stuff. Trump out in Iowa yesterday. This is, by the way, this is the beginning of Trump being all over the place in the lead up to the midterms. We're going to be seeing a lot more of that. 205-545-9950. 545-9950 as both Trump and Marco Rubio are dueling, and I'm torn. I don't know what direction to go. But I do. There is a couple points I want to make, and I'll just kind of dip in and out of this as we go, depending on who's talking. It looks like Marco Rubio is being questioned by, is that Merkley, Democrat Senator? What's his name? Is it Ted Merkley? Jeff Merkley? I can't remember. But I guess they're moving on. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on this to see who's who. Because some of them are going to be, you know how this goes. It's a slobber fest for depending on who the witness is. But another thing I want to bring up just to kind of get this out of the way. This is a local story, and it just popped up on my radar this morning. There has been a what was it? A tape, a phone call that was leaked by a former, I guess, Jefferson County City Council member of a conversation between her and Randall Woodfin. And it was LaShonda Scales who leaked it. She was a then city councilor, and apparently, and the way I put this together was I had to go back and read the post from Randall Woodfin. It's actually where this started. I saw a post from Randall Woodfin, and it said something about two titties. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? I'll get to that in a minute, but it looks like, is that Nicki Minaj on stage with Trump right now?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, let's go to that for a moment.
I am probably the president's #1 fan. And that's not going to change. And the hate or what people have to say, it does not affect me at all. It actually motivates me to support him more. And it's going to motivate all of us to support him more. We're not going to let them get away with bullying him and, the smear campaigns. It's not going to work. Okay? He has a lot of force behind him, and God is protecting him. Amen.
That is so nice.
Shut up. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Stay right here.
So now he's also got Kevin O'Leary on
On
stage.
behalf of all the entrepreneurs in America, I'd like to thank you, Mr. President, because we create 72% of the jobs. Companies 5 to 500 employees, and all we care about is policy. We love policy, pro-business policy, and these accounts are fantastic for independence and support. I thank you very much. It's all about the entrepreneur, and I think you know that, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, that was great. A little interlude. I don't know. That's better than getting Scott Bessent up. Thank you both very much. Two terrific people. When Trump accounts officially launch on July 4th of this year, every parent will be able to activate their accounts and access the funds at the trumpaccounts.gov. So it's all set up, all ready to go. It's beautiful. The site is beautiful. On that glorious day, we also expect to have commitments from generous private individuals in all 50 states, and they'll be making additional contributions for children in their own states. And already legendary investor Ray Dalio has pledged to adopt the entire state of Connecticut. That's pretty good, Michael. And thank you very much, Ray. Great legend. And today, one of the original advocates of this program has agreed to adopt his home state of Indiana, Brad Gerstner. And Brad's here someplace. Where's Brad? Come on. I think Michael and Brad, would you come up here, please? Come up here. I mean, this isn't exactly Mr. Wonderful and Nikki. But I think they might be worth more money than Mr. Wonderful, right? These guys are worth a lot of money. But Brad is donating, listen to this, $250 to Trump accounts for all children under 5 in Indiana. So all the children under 5, 250, and he'll be donating tens of millions of dollars more in matching contributions to millions of children all across the country. He's going to make a massive donation already. We know what it is. Brad is not only one of the most successful business people, he's the founder of the Invest America Foundation, and he's been working on this idea for years, and he was the one. He went over to see Michael. Michael loved it, and those two were a hell of a team, along with Mrs. Dell, who's been so great, Susan. I also delighted to report that dozens of major employers have signed up to add the Trump account contributions to their employee benefit packages, including Uber, Schwab, Charter Communications, and many, many others. And just today it was announced that Intel, NVIDIA, Broadcom, IBM, Steak and Shake, Coinbase, Continental Resources, and Comcast have all signed up for really big contributions. So I want to thank them. I want to have you two guys come on up. Would you say a couple of words? Brad and Michael, would you say a couple of words?
All right, so here's what he's talking about. Now, this is actually a very big story that people need to be following, as babies that are born in this country are going to basically start off with $1,000. Like that would have been unheard of years ago, but it's very smart. And in the private sector, as he was just mentioning, you've got Steak and Shake, who is pledging a $1,000 match on those Trump accounts for all of their employees. Another one he mentioned, I don't know if he mentioned it or not, but I saw it. Bank of America is set to match the $1,000 government deposits for the Trump accounts for children. And I don't know if that's for people that have accounts with Bank of America or what, but that's going to be, and that's going to continue. That's going to snowball. There's going to be a lot more businesses that do the same thing, which is going to make that number for these children go even higher. It's a good start at life, man. It's a good start. And at that point, everybody's going to have white privilege. I'm going to have to get everybody a white privilege card. All right, now Cory Booker talking to Marco Rubio. Let's go to that. See if we've got that feed real quick. Spartacus, if you will.
Right now that are literally costing the American taxpayer tens of millions of dollars a day. The buildup in the Caribbean alone is hundreds of millions of dollars a month, but we're not providing that kind of oversight that's necessary. So from our power to the purse, to our important work of providing a check and balance to an administration, what we're seeing right now is unacceptable and speaks to what I think is a growing constitutional crisis in our country, which is a Congress that is just lying down for the administration to do whatever it wants, whenever it wants. I want to pick up on my colleague's questioning because I actually know from years of conversations with you your heart about human rights in countries like Venezuela, Mr. Secretary. And you issued a travel warning, a level 4 travel advisory from your department's website that says right now in Venezuela there's a high risk of wrongful detention, torture, terrorism, kidnapping, arbitrary enforcement of laws, crime, and more. And when we hear from the president that he is in charge, that you all are running this government to that extent, I have a lot of concerns when it comes to the rampant human rights violations that are persisting. Cabello is Maduro's key hardline enforcer. He's continued to intimidate and suppress Venezuelan voices. He remains in control of Venezuela's security services, the colectivos. We're seeing extraordinary examples that the constant oppression of the people is continuing as these folks are remaining in control of the country. So I just want to know what is the plan to address in a much more aggressive manner these severe human rights violations and to try to stop these armed militias. Because if we are doing things to stabilize their government if we're turning over resources and money to the very groups that are creating these horrors, that seems to me against America's values, and it seems to me something that is should be unacceptable to Congress on both sides.
Yeah, well, absolutely. The Venezuela I described that we want to see emerge from this is one in which none of that is happening. If you think about travel advisories are us imagining worst-case scenarios. We have a duty to warn American citizens when they travel to a place that does have a history of Americans being arrested, of Americans being taken. And they may be taken by a deliberate action of a government or entity related to the regime. They may be taken by criminal gangs that control parts of that society. For example, you have these colectivos, as they're called, which basically are these armed motorcycle gangs that are allowed to act with impunity in return for their support for the Maduro regime in the past. You have the ELN and the FARC and other drug trafficking organizations, including Tren de Aragua, that are involved.
Again.
So these are real risks that we have a duty to warn Americans. Here's what we didn't want to see, and don't mean to interrupt you. We have this announcement that Maduro's been taken. All of a sudden, people conclude, oh, he's gone, let's flood over there, let's all go over there, and we could expose people to danger.
But this is the hypocrisy that I see. At the same time that you're issuing these human rights cautions about what's going on there for Americans, you have a president that's lifting temporary protected status for Venezuelans. Many of them are individuals that have lived in our country for years, if not decades. When I hear from the Venezuelan community, I hear an outrage that at the very same time that you are affirming here that these armed militias are running around suppressing voices, we have an administration that has said very clearly that they're not only going to be lifting temporary protective status for Venezuelans living in the U.S., but instead of protecting longtime American residents, they're, quote, the administration is putting people back on deportation flights and sending them into that madness. Does that make sense to you?
Well, first of all, the travel advisories for American citizens traveling there and the threats posed to Americans. What you're describing
why lift temporary protected status?
Well, the problem with temporary protective status was it was granted to so many people in such a vast numbers so quickly without proper vetting by the previous administration that there's a real concern that there were gang members that had received TPS simply because of the nation they came from and the time in which they came. It became so big and so massive. The overwhelming majority of Venezuelans are not members of Tren de Aragua, but there were Tren de Aragua and other criminal elements embedded in the TPS system. And the numbers were so large that the administration felt it had to cancel the program in order to appropriately vet it through
Marco,
on the individual cases.
Excuse me, Mr. Secretary, this might not surprise you. I don't trust this administration and the way they use terms like terrorist. I've seen them calling American citizens domestic terrorists who are people trying to peacefully protest. The problem we have right now is the administration continues to make policies that seem to contradict their words, and yet we don't have a process in place for Congress to do its job because people are not calling folks in for these hearings and not providing the kind of oversight that we need. It is very frustrating to me that we still have a repressive regime in power in Venezuela suppressing human rights, yet we are cooperating with them, we are funding them, and we're not calling out the ridiculousness of the violence that's going on there. At the same time, we're taking people who have lived in our country for years and years and years and sending them back into that hell where they can be targeted, where they can be abducted, where they can be held for hostage because they know they have American family members that are still here. This is a situation ripe for where we are being complicit in continuing human rights violations, and that needs to stop. And I think
just on 2 points, we're not cooperating with them to continue doing what they're doing now. We're cooperating with them to transition away from what's happening now. And as I said, we're not even 4 weeks into this thing. And if it continues to look like this in 6 months, 9 months, a year from now, if progress isn't being made, we'll have very different feelings about it. But what we're cooperating on is not the continuation of what's happening. It's a movement away from all this and transitioning ultimately to something that looks nothing like this. That's the goal. But it's been less than 4 weeks. I mean, we think we've made substantial progress in a very short period of time, but I acknowledge we want to make a lot more progress. This is not the end state that we want.
So there's Cory Booker and Marco Rubio. I will say that they're a lot more calm than I would have expected, but if you think about it, Marco Rubio is, he's a senator, a former senator, and so these are his colleagues. These are the people that he worked with. Although Democrats really don't care about that. Like, they'll try to ruin you, just like Jeff Sessions. Remember the whole Jeff Sessions thing? He was attorney general, but he went into the Senate hearings about Russia collusion And because he was buddy with all those people, they were like, "We demand you step aside or recuse yourself," which he ultimately did. What an awful situation that was. Marco Rubio's, even though he's not Attorney General, he wouldn't do that. You've got a team in the Trump cabinet that is in the business of fighting back, unlike anything I've ever seen come out of Republicans. Republicans have been notoriously weak until now. And this is, I'm preaching to the choir here. You guys know that. But I just want to make sure everybody can appreciate that. Another point I wanted to make before we cut away from the Trump speech was Nicki Minaj was on the stage and she made a few comments, and then she moved out of the way for Kevin O'Leary to take the stage and make his comments. And behind them stood Nicki Minaj side by side with Donald Trump. And Nicki Minaj was holding Trump's hands, and she's got these 8-inch long fingernails wrapped around Trump's hand. And I'm like, dude, this got to be driving Secret Service crazy, because those nails can be dangerous. But what a sight, man. What a sight. I mean, just the visuals we get out of this administration. Sometimes I have to take a step back and I'm like, is this even real? Am I even seeing what I'm seeing? It's crazy. 205-545-9950. We didn't do a hey now roll call, but maybe we'll, I don't know. We'll figure something out. 205-545-9950. I'll hang tight. Underdog Fantasy. UnderdogFantasy.com and the Underdog Fantasy app, baby. The big game, as y'all know. I like to call it the big game. The big game's coming up, which means that is your chance to win money. You really don't even have to wait on the big game, but you can, if you want to get in on some college basketball or some NBA, you can win yourself real money. As I told you yesterday, I want you to take this one step at a time. First thing I want you to do is I want you to download the app, which is free to download. And when you sign up, use my promo code HeyNow, HEYNOW. This is for you to help me out. You're helping me out by using my promo code. Use promo code HeyNow, HEYNOW, when you sign up, after you download the app. And then look around the app. Just kind of flip around, look at it, see how it works and everything else, and get a feel for it. And after that, if you decide you want to play, knock it out, man. Start playing, start making picks, start winning money. When you use my promo code, after you play your first $5, you're going to get $75 in bonus fantasy entries. So that's a perk for using my promo code. But just download the app. What are you waiting for? Download the app today and use promo code HeyNow to score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you play your first $5 on fantasy. That's promo code HeyNow. Underdog, make plays, win money. Must be 19 or older and present in Alabama. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Yes, sirree. All right, so this hearing will continue on. I'm not going to carry the whole thing. I got some stuff I got to get to, which we will make happen when we get back on the other side. And what we may do is we may just start the next hour with the Hey Now roll call, which, much like yesterday, for people that have texted in twice today, it would have botched that. But I don't think there's as many people that did it as did yesterday. So we'll do you a Hey Now roll call when we get back. As a matter of fact, we're just going to wipe the slate clean. The first Hey Now I get at 11 o'clock, that's who's going to get it. Brand new, fresh slate. Send it in now. Send a Hey Now, and you can pick the first bumper song of next hour. Back after